if he beats somebody in a sparring match or something like that?
He's a 10-year-old kid in a place full of 1,000-year-old elves. He's not being...
That's a good point. Okay, no, but that's all right. I can't think of any other way to demonstrate that. Okay, but the thing that I was thinking of is that the idea of the death of Arathorn, that is way more influential to Gilrine, and it's going to inform her decisions a lot more than it does Estelle's.
Well, but this is an opportunity for us to showcase how Gilrine is coping, which the answer seems to be not super great, and finally maybe kind of putting a little bit of that on Estelle, like finally letting him into that whole thing. Like his birthday's coming up.
We passed his birthday.
Oh, we passed his birthday.
So it's March now.
Okay, so his birthday.
Real life end in the story.
Right. So he just had his birthday. Like his birthday maybe needs to be like, we may have to go back a little bit and add a couple lines in, but his birthday has been like a bittersweet time for Gilrine, right? She's, obviously happy that it's his birthday, but she's also really feeling
the loss,
right?
The passage of time in Rivendell. Yeah.
So she's kind of mopey and down, and he's like, well, what's the deal? And she's like, all right, I'm just thinking about your father. And like, she's still conflicted about whether she's going to tell him the whole story. But he starts asking her, so where is my father? Like, how did my father die? Right. And she kind of gives him the introduction to that story without any context, and maybe is interrupted by Elrond, who is like, well, I thought we agreed that we were not going to do this, right?
I'm having a thought here.
Okay.
What if we break up the flashback? We break up the flashback into two parts. I need that. We break up the flashback into two parts. Mm-hmm. And show the first part in this episode and the second part in the next episode. Yeah, because remember, it was decided that we're going to get the revelation that Estelle means hope in episode 6, which is the next one.
So that's exactly what I'm getting at.
And I would like to see us go back to that flashback and revisit and actually see the death, because this might be the moment when we get the pushback from Gilrine on how much of the stories are on completely useless information to someone who's going to be the chieftain of the Dunedain.
Yeah, next episode we're basically at the halfway point, more or less.
Right. So. And if we end it, and if we show, maybe in this episode, we even open up seeing Arathorn as chieftain amongst his people. We see that he's a good and benevolent leader, and all the things that
Are we gonna do the thing where she wakes up from a dream? Are we gonna do that?
I really like that, but I mean, it's been done, but
Well, I mean, everything's been done. Like, you
can't be like, we're not gonna be able to avoid tropes entirely.
Well, that's not the goal. But the question is whether they're used well or if they seem very.
And, I am super okay with beginning the episode. Like, I would be very pleased if kind of different parts of the flashback as it is filmed are kind of cut up and put throughout the episode. Like, I would love to go back to the death of Arathorn kind of in 3 to 5 pieces.
Okay.
The episode. I would even, to the point of where we're kind of bouncing back and forth between the moments in Almaren, the moments in the frame, and then the moments in the north, wherever they are, when they're being assaulted by the orcs, and kind of like hopping back and forth between them as Elrond gives a voiceover. You know what I mean? Kind of tying them all together as we're seeing like scenes from each one, where maybe Gilroy by herself and kind of overcome with grief. Scenes of them being chased, and then scenes of Ungoliant kind of looming over Nessa or wherever we happen to be in the episode.
Oh, I finally see what you're talking about here. You're basically talking about telling these stories concurrently.
Sort of, not necessarily through the whole episode, but like towards the end, as we're reaching like the sort of to be continued moment, or not necessarily to be continued, but where Elrond is kind of wrapping up this part of the story. We kind of see scenes as he's giving a voiceover of like, this is the moral of the story with the lamps and Nessa's whole deal, and like, where nothing is evil in the beginning, and the best intention, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and that kind of whole thing. And we see here, Karita's saying, I'd love to see Arathorn, so we can cast an older gent. How much he was what, like 50? No, I guess he's about the Aragorn's age when he died.
That sounds right. I'd have to check.
I feel like,
but the key deal is that the marriage between Arathorn and Gilraen was discouraged because she was so young and he was so old.
Yeah. So you were going to say something before, Marie. What was it that you were going for before?
Oh, that was a while ago.
I know. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It was. Yeah, don't worry about it. I'll bring it up again if it matters. One thing I did want to point out, though, was that we are not going to tell Estelle that his father was chieftain of the Dunedain.
Yeah.
So we can only do that from Gilraen's point of view, or in conversations between her and Elrond, just as a reminder.
So do we want to give it away at the beginning of the episode then, or do we want to just not provide any context and start in medias res, and just kind of like rely on people to kind of connect the dots?
I would like the audience to have to try to figure out what's going on as the episode progresses.
Who is this guy?
Who's this person?
So maybe instead of having Gilraen wake up from a dream, because this way we can intersperse it a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
Like say that we open up and we see Arathorn among his people. We don't have to get names of anybody, because when people are just talking, they don't always use each other's names.
Right.
But Halbered's dad has to be in there. We're going to use his name.
Who?
Halbered's father? I don't know.
All right. We can do that.
I'm kind of joking. Go ahead. Continue. Sorry.
So we get, we get to see that. And I think that, and I think maybe we can leave that flashback scene at that point, just seeing a few exchanges.
Mm-hmm.
And then we cut to Gilraen maybe holding something in her hand, something that belonged to Arathorn.
Right.
Yeah.
Fade to something in her hands.
Yeah.
When does he get the elf stone?
Doesn't he find it on the bridge?
No. The elf stone that he wears, Galadriel gives him in Fellowship.
Oh, you're right. I'm thinking he does find something there, but it's not.
There is an elf stone on the bridge. Glorfindel leaves it.
He's got the ring, though, right?
The ring of Barahir he should have, but he gets that on his 20th birthday when Elrond tells him to really.
Does she? So she needs to have it then, right?
Who needs to have what?
Gilraen. She needs to have that. Or does Elrond have that? I can't remember who.
Elrond's the one who gives it to him. So my guess is that Elrond's keeping all that stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe this would be. I would like the ring to be the thing she's kind of looking at and daydreaming. And this would be a good episode for her to give it to Elrond.
It's not super well known. It's not something that's super well known that everybody would be like, it's Aragorn. Like, it's not necessarily a dead giveaway.
Right. Either this episode or like I feel like the denouement for this whole conflict where she decides not to tell Estelle who he is like, all right, fine, I'm giving this to you as a symbol of I'm entrusting you with deciding when is the right time.
Maybe she's the one that has to have faith.
Yeah. That's a good point.
So this story is more about Gilroy.
Yeah. He still needs the lesson, but she's the one who has to, it's her arc.
Yeah. That's really good. I like that.
Way easier because now we don't have to make up some nonsense about Estelle. Because I've never known an 11-year-old child to have a crisis of faith, right? That's super difficult.
Well, when their dad dies, maybe. But
he's never known his dad.
Yeah, it happened 8 years ago. I don't think.
I mean, we could. I feel like it'll ring a little bit hollow.
Yeah.
For him, not that he just won't understand the gravity of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and maybe okay. What if Gilroy's sitting in on this lesson? We haven't really seen a lot of that happening before, but maybe she's getting a little bit more. Okay, so we get the flashback scene to Arathorn. All right, and so the next day she decides she wants to sit in on the lesson to see what is he even learning? What is what's going on here? And so this is really going to open us up to more about. This is going to open up us up to an opportunity for her to show her concerns.
And the lamps is maybe a sort of a great example of that because it does start out kind of epic and not really specific to anything, right?
Yeah.
It's just, and the Valar came together and they built themselves some great lamps.
Yeah.
Right? And she's like, what is this? What are you doing? Right?
Yeah.
I don't. What are you doing?
How is this helping my kid?
Exactly, and he's like, "Well, I'm getting to that, right?"
I have one suggestion on how it can seem somewhat more natural for her to be there, and that would be if the location of the lesson is more of a public location instead of like
Hall of Fire.
Right. And so I said Hall of Fire on the forums, and that's where I'm going with this. But if anyone has another public place suggestion where it would make sense that somebody can just wander through or walk up.
No, I really like the Hall of Fire. If nothing else, it's a fantastic location that's going to really give us some good, like the lighting alone is going to really help us set the tone of this
episode. I would also
episode.
like for the Hall of Fire to look a lot like we never got a straight answer on this, and I'm going to be a jerk about it next week. I would really like the Hall of Fire to kind of look like the council chambers of the Valar in Valinor, which we haven't seen yet, but
the Ring of Doom
would be a good opportunity to kind of get a really big sweeping shot and establish sort of the vibe in there. So that when we see the sort of the place where the Valar meet in Valinor to kind of have discussions, it's like the Hall of Fire, where you can totally have very small private conversations like they do with Bilbo, but it's also a huge sort of meeting hall. That's just my thing.
I think the Mahanaxar is meant to be an outdoor location. The Ring of Doom in Valinor is right next to the trees on the green hill of Azalahar or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily talking about the Ring of Doom, although the Ring of Doom should probably be
the Ring of Doom. I feel should definitely be evoked by the council chamber. If we ever see the council chamber where the Council of Elrond is going to take place.
Yeah, that seems perfect.
Okay. So
you should see that.
So you're suggesting like the halls of Manwë then?
No. Oh, the halls of Man. Yeah.
Like on Tenequatil.
Basically, yeah. I guess so. I mean, fire is not necessarily a good. Just, I guess, kind of the overall shape of it. Like, I just want to. I want to get at the fact that I want to emphasize the fact that this stuff is like deep in the elvish psyche. You know what I mean? Like even if they're not necessarily overtly building an homage to it, that they can't kind of do anything without referencing this stuff.
Yeah. I think we've been doing kind of going in that direction a lot, and Karita apparently agrees. We've been kind of going in the direction that a lot of Imladris mirrors Almoran and mirrors
and not necessarily on purpose,
Valinor
right?
as well.
Obviously, the reflecting pool was definitely on purpose, right? Because it's trying to get at the harmony of the Valar, but. I can't think of another way that we can really depict visually sort of the throwaway references that exist in all of the different, frame stories and all of the references that you get in the text to all of the history. Yeah. Right. The only way to do that visually is to kind of make things look like other things, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So that's what I'm trying to get at with that.
Okay. So, I mean, I feel like the Halls of Fire. I do understand that it's not necessarily itself connected immediately to the Halls of Manwë, but I can definitely see some value to giving to seeing that at some point.
They're both places where lots of people congregate to talk about stuff, right? So they kind of look like each other. That's good enough for me at this point.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So we're having the lesson take place in the Hall of Fire. So it doesn't at all seem weird at all that Gilrain's present. Mm-hmm. Do we want her to, do we want her to aggressively interrupt the lesson, or do we want her to approach Elrond afterwards?
Nope. She should.
Is that we kind of used up that move back in episode 1.
I'm gonna take a short walk and think about that.
Okay. We lost one.
All right. So. So what do you think? I feel like given the history of their relationship that we've shown, I don't see her going at him that hard again at this point.
I guess
especially in a public place where there's other elves around.
Oh yeah, no, that's another thing.
Excited because she needs to hear the story of the lamps and then get cranky about it, right? So she comes upon them, and Elrond is kind of beginning his lesson. Maybe she could kind of stop him and be like, "I need to talk to you," and he's like, "Well, hold on, I'm in the middle of my thing that I do." That's
not half bad.
Yeah,
and maybe he can kind of see a little bit into her a little bit,
and she can be like, "Yeah," he's like, "This will be good for you. You'll enjoy this." Or not.
Yeah.
That's. But yeah.
Yeah. No. I get where you're coming from. I think we can find ways to say that that's not too snarky.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, part of the whole story between Elrond and Gilrain this season is supposed to be her recognizing that Elvish point of view has value, and him recognizing that human point of view has value.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
But,
so I think
be insightful enough to kind of notice that not all is well with Gilrain at this moment.
Yeah,
and like this. I mean, he, maybe there's a little bit of that elvish superiority, but it's mostly like, no, this actually will be good for you. You need to hear this story.
Yeah. Okay, so we get into the story, which thankfully there's a lot for us to work through here. So let's do it. So where do we open up? We open up. We've gone over the kind of the discussion of the lamp project.
It's been introduced already.
Yeah. Now I was listening to.
Has expressed being on board with it.
Oh yeah.
Well, it was supposed to be Melkor's idea, right? He was the one who was like.
That was back when there was